This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's a slightly gray, cold, and chilly morning where I'm at, but hopefully it's better where you are. And yeah, so what are we doing today? Well, I'll get into that momentarily, but first, a bunch of hellos. Let's get the hellos going here. Get my brain woken up a little bit. Waking up? That's what it is. That's what Sundays are for. Keeverdam, hello. Dax Orion, sorry. King Kang Daxalang. Good morning. Ken Elliott. Who else is here? Check Your Logic. Ryan R. Chicago Mike. Somnambular Nation. Mike R. No relation to Ryan R. as far as I know. Brittany Holland. JMK. Shadowclaw. Robert Pincus. And Tyrannus Alexandrius. Tremere Lich. Tiafiorix. A2P. Matt Barnes. And Funtime Bats. I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, or if you're in the future, good morning, good Sunday morning to you. So I brought back the background music. I had a request/complaint from Beachy Cogito that he or she or they or Z missed the background music. So I'm going to give it another shot. Hopefully it doesn't interfere too much with my vocals. If it does, let me know and I will adapt. A Scanner Daftly, good morning. Seftus Wolf, good morning. So I thought, what should I do today? And I also thought, what haven't I visited in a while? And then I thought, hey, what about ERGs? Remember ERGs? Ah, yes, employee resource groups, employee diversity groups, employee affinity groups. So I came across this Zoom call from a company I'd never heard of before. They are called Quest IT Management, and they state that at Quest, we create and manage the software that makes the benefits of new technology real while empowering users and data, streamlining IT operations, and hardening cybersecurity from the inside out. Companies turn to us to manage, modernize, and secure their business from on-prem to in-cloud, from the heart of the network to the vulnerable endpoints. That's straight from their website. I don't know what half that stuff means, but then I'm not very technically inclined. But what are ERGs? You know, some of you who have been with the channel for a while, you know exactly what ERGs are. But in brief, and I'm sure they'll talk about this in the program, ERGs, employee resource groups, are these internal, I don't know what you want to call them, clubs, factions, support groups, usually based around a demographic of some kind or another. We'll see what this company does in handling theirs. I don't know what they're going to say because I haven't watched this. However, in the course of preparing the video and upping the audio a little bit for quality, I did catch one piece of dialogue which told me something interesting about this particular panel discussion. Apparently, and of course, you know, mileage may vary in truth on this, apparently this was prepared specifically for internal employee education. This isn't set up, I guess, as a promotional video like so many others I've looked at in the past, but this specifically was for employee consumption at the company. Now, I don't know if that means we're going to get a bunch of inside baseball stuff going on here or fly on the wall kind of material. I assume if they put it on their YouTube channel, they also mean for it to be public consumption as well, but that just seemed interesting to me. And also that I guess each of the speakers are either the leaders of or members of the individual ERGs at this company. So that's all I know about this. But I thought, hey, a company I've never heard of before, they're excited to tell us why diversity matters at their company through their ERGs. Sounds like a great combination. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Zoom was one of my favorite PBS shows growing up. Mine were The Electric Company, right? And 321 Contact. Especially like when I think it was Electric Company, or whenever they had like MathNet. Remember? It was like Pat Tuesday. Yeah, anyway, I could go on. Oh, 321 Contact, Electric Company, all the old good shows. Back when education was fun, you had Spider-Man show up. Anyway, I could reminisce on that for a while, but is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Plague Grinch Zach, good morning. Resolute Germ, good morning. Mike Savage, Blarg. And with that, let's find out. Oh, wait, I have another super chat coming through. Thank you again, Derek LaRue. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. By the way, speaking of which, if you'll also at some point direct your attention to the GoFundMe pinned to the top of the chat box, we have a new GoFundMe added to the list today. Thank you, Kiever Dam, for our friend Moonshock, currently going through cancer treatment. So please take a look at the GoFundMe's there for Moonshock, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. If you have a couple of bucks to spare, they, their friends, and loved ones could certainly use the help. And with that, let's find out what Quest IT wants us to know about why diversity matters. I'll start off with a couple of seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we'll proceed. Oh. E&I Council. E&I? So equity and inclusion, I'm assuming? There's no D. You guys hear that all right? Let me know in the chat real quick. I think I set up everything correctly today. There's some weird things going on with prepping the video today. I don't know if it's something up with either StreamYard or YouTube. I just want to make sure everything sounds good. Okay, 5x5 so far. Says JMK. Sounds musical, says some Nation. Yes. All right, so E and I. I'm assuming equity and inclusion. Oh, these are these the ERGs? Oh, okay. Quest Pride. Okay, so that's an ERG. Okay. Quest Colors. Oh boy. All right, so we have sexual orientation and skin color so far. Great. Women at Quest. Okay, so women. Okay, so we got orientation, race, and gender. All right, good.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to watch our second training bite, sponsored by Quest Equality and Inclusion Council, and produced by members of your employee resource groups.
Oh boy, members of my employee resource groups. Okay, and everybody's using the same fake background. That's a little disturbing. Okay, my employee resource groups. Great.
If this is your first session, plan to do these quarterly for all Quest employees.
Okay, good.
We currently have 3 active employee resource groups working to create a safe space for all Quest employees to discuss matters pertaining to members of our communities and are supported by incredible allies and executive leadership.
Oh boy. Well, hey, here's a question for you. And I have this question for many of the companies that I've looked at that deal with ERGs. Would you allow a religious ERG? You see, here's the thing. I find it always interesting how the elements of someone's makeup in an employment setting that by civil rights law are those things that you should, as much as is possible, stay away from in any hints that you're discriminating against, right? So race, gender, orientation, but somehow those are okay to start splitting your employees up on the basis of, and risking someone saying, hey, why do these employees get special resources, special treatment? Why are their elements of their makeup valued more than mine? Those all seem safe, race, gender, orientation, but you never see religion. You know, even though religion is on the exact same footing legally in civil rights law as the other 3, it's always curious to me. I wonder why that is the line that they never, almost, as far as I know, I haven't seen a religious ERG yet at a company. I've seen it discussed. I haven't seen it actually affected yet. But who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Thank you, Kiever Dam. Give, send, go, not GoFundMe. Oh, sorry, is what Moonshock has. I apologize. I'm using GoFundMe sort of like Kleenex when referring to facial tissue. He's fighting his 2nd round of cancer, and he's 1/5 to his goal. All right. Well, thank you, Kiever Dam, both for providing us with the give, send, go link from Moonshock. And guys, if you could take a look at that when you have the opportunity, links up in the pin to the top of the chat box. Thank you so much, Kiefer Dan. Thank you, everybody who donates. And best of luck to Moonshock, longtime viewer and part of the audience. I don't know. Sorry, my brain got scrambled there for a second. And thank you, Mike R. Where is the white male ERG? I don't know. Why shouldn't there be? Well, I mean, they have the colors ERG, so it's not specific. I guess you could be in there and be a white male. Anyway, yes, what do you have to tell us again?
Quest Colors, Women at Quest, and Quest Pride are all working together to discuss the topic why diversity matters to us.
Excellent.
Why diversity matters to us individually, why it matters at Quest, or at any workplace for that matter, and on a larger scale, why it matters in the world we live in and walk in every day.
Okay.
We want to provide some advice and guidance to our fellow Quest employees on how you can be an ally to members of our communities.
Oh, excellent. Oh, boy. I was so hoping this would be educational. All right. So I'm going to pretend I'm an employee at this company. All right. So I'm an employee of, for now, we'll just say nondescript attributes. I'm just a blank, model out of Blender or something. Okay. And I'm about to be educated on how to be a good ally to these specific communities. All right, I can't wait.
But before we get to the topic at hand, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our panel today.
Sure.
First, we'll start with my fellow Pride ERG officer, Ellen Walsh.
Thank you, Joseph.
Okay, so does that mean I already know what your private lives are like? Is that something I have to declare at Quest? Like, I have to, do I have to disclose as a matter of course at Quest, if I'm an employee, what my personal sexual preferences are? Or can I keep that to myself? Can I keep that to my private life and leave that out of my professional life? What matters my sexual orientation at Quest?
I'm the communications coordinator with the Pride ERG. I'm based out of North Carolina, and I'm a technical writer with Quest. And it's really important to me to be participating in these kinds of things as an active member of the Pride community, and really just to get this perspective out there for a lot of people who might not have considered how things are looking from different angles of the world.
Why do I need to know who you like to sleep with? What matters it to me as a fellow employee at this company?
And so to help with that, also, I want to introduce a fantastic woman at Quest, Rukmini.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, a lot of this lag is from the original record. Actually, all of the lag is from the original recording. So if you're hearing, if the images aren't lining up and you hear the audio kind of going goofy, I can't do anything about that, unfortunately. If you hear me going all goofy and laggy, well, I probably still can't do anything about that. But then, yeah, anyway.
I'm Rukmini Davakar, based out of India. I'm a part of the HR team and work as business partner, senior advisor at Quest. I've always been an ally and working in various areas like empowering differently abled, girl-child education, and many more. When I got to know about the ERGs here at Quest, I was super excited to be a part of them and contribute in all the ways I could. I'm so proud to say that I'm able to contribute to all the 3 ERGs. I'm now the communication coordinator for Quest Colors and Women at Quest.
Oh my gosh, so you fall into all the demographics. You can be part of all the cool kids clubs. Okay. Thank you, Septus Wolf. They need to know which orgy group to put you in. I tell you, of all the elements that they put into prominence in DEI initiatives, the one that I'm always the most morbidly curious about is the orientation element. How does that conversation go at the office? How do you inquire about that of an employee? If you're a supervisor, if you're a fellow employee, that kind of thing. Why does that matter? What business is it of anybody else, and why is it appropriate to bring that up? If someone wants to talk about it, offhandedly or otherwise, as long as it's not like in some kind of weird, awkward, inappropriate way. Like, somebody says they're talking to their coworker, they're talking about the person they met last night at a bar or something. And through that conversation, you can divine what their orientation is, at least sidewise. Okay, fine, whatever. But otherwise, what does it have to do with my working life? What does it have to do with my professional life at the office? And is that part of the interview process? Am I required to confess this to my employer in order that I get slotted into one of these ERGs? I've always been curious to know, how does that conversation go? And can I opt out of telling you about my personal life when all I am here to do is work?
So that's a new addition. And creating some foundations to work with Quest Pride too. So I'm thrilled with the opportunities that have come by and love to contribute in all of my capacities.
That's great.
Over to you, Candice.
Thanks, Mimi. My name is Candice Lovett, and I'm based here in Houston. Been with Quest for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started out my ERG journey as the co-chair of Quest Colors, and I was also invited by Joseph. Thank you so much, Joseph, to join the Pride at Quest ERG, and later I was able to join at Quest. It's so important that we, in any capacity, join any ERG that we have the opportunity to, because we get to be allies to one another. We get to, do something that is so much more enriching and bigger than us. So it's been such a blast experiencing what I've experienced with joining each of the ERGs and contributing as much as I can.
Now, see, here's the thing that it always sticks in my mind. When I hear employee resource group, part of me wants to think that it's something relatively benevolent, right? And I have heard of, and we've heard of on this channel before, ERGs that, sound decent, like something to the effect of the working parents ERG. I've seen this in some companies. You have parents who work full-time, but they have kid concerns and things, or maybe they're single parents and they're working full-time and they need, some extra help, either with babysitting or maybe with daycare or maybe some other kind of resources or support. That seems like something that would make some kind of sense in the workplace. And then you have, oftentimes, and I'm kind of surprised I hadn't heard it here, but maybe they'll get it eventually, a veterans ERG. Because veterans have special concerns because of medical situations or financial situations, or maybe deployment, that kind of thing, where you have people within the company either have access to or can network or can sympathize with individuals experiencing something of a particular circumstance, being a working parent, being a veteran, something of merit, something of consequence in their life. Okay, that makes some sense to me. That doesn't sound too off base. But then you put alongside those things elements that have nothing to do with situation or circumstance or merit or say anything about the person's quality of life or value to society in any particular way. Their gender, their race, their orientation. As though these elements of someone's makeup require a support system or need group therapy or something. That's the part that I don't get. And even if there is some utility to that idea, should it be in the workplace where this occurs? All these levels to this that don't make a whole lot of sense to me. And if I were running a company, I'd be very wary of the possibility, the likelihood, in fact, of accusations of favoritism on the basis of things that have nothing to do with someone's merit and are explicitly in law as those things you're not supposed to approach when it comes to employment or opportunities within a workplace, that kind of thing. Okay, so there's my baseline confusion, concern, morbid curiosity about these things, just for the record.
But back to you, and for having me.
My name is Joseph Parks. I am an inside sales account executive located here in Austin. I've been with Quest for about 1.5 years, and I joined the ERG pretty much right when I became an employee, because in the onboarding process, that's brought to our attention ways for us all to get involved in the ERG. So I want to say I attended my first meeting within a couple weeks of starting at Quest.
Okay, so part of the onboarding process at Quest, the initial orientation for new employees, here are our ERGs based around very specific, I should say very broadly based demographics. Okay, do I have to join an ERG? What if I don't want to get involved? What happens to me then? I wonder. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Where's the group if I identify as refrigerator? I don't know. I guess you're just out of luck. You're just out of luck. If you don't fall into one of these categories or don't feel like doing any extracurricular activities with your company because you just want to come to work, do your job, and go home again, Yeah, I'm always wondering what happens to somebody that just wants to do their job. I don't want to make this a support group. I don't want to make this some kind of weird extra family, or I'm getting involved in people's personal lives, like really personal lives, or start divvying up my coworkers on the basis of their skin colors or who they sleep with. You know? Yeah.
I've always been very involved in the LGBTQ plus community. I lived in New York for 12 years, which has a very active community there. I also compete on a global level as an LGBT athlete.
What does that have to do with anything? Why can't you just be an athlete? What is that? Does something take place during the course of your competitions that requires? I don't even know how to finish that sentence. What does it matter? Good gravy. Thank you, Septus Wolf. So many people get time away from work to attend meetings while being paid. I wonder why people would sign up for that. Well, that's the other thing too. Is the time you spend on an ERG compensated when it's essentially just a PR campaign for the company? I mean, look how inclusive we are. Look how diverse we are. Look how supportive we are of all these different communities. I mean, if I'm running an ERG, do I get an extra paycheck? Or am I doing that for free? How much of my life am I dedicating more so to the company's interests effectively than my own? Yeah, it's always a conundrum.
Competed at the Gay Games in 2018, and perhaps I'm doing it in 2022. We'll see.
The Gay Games? Okay, I don't know that I'd ever heard of that before. Why not just compete in a general athletic thing? Okay.
But it's always been very important to me. And at Quest, being the chair of Pride, it's been wonderful to sort of produce this series of training bites and learn from these amazing people on this call with me.
What makes them amazing? What about them makes them amazing? I mean, you're highlighting things that say nothing about a person's quality or skill or experience. But okay, what makes them amazing?
I've realized how much beautiful differences we have, but also how much in common we have. And that's what's been great about working with everyone to get to see that.
Right.
So I'm thrilled to be here and thrilled to continue this journey with you all.
Okay.
Thank you all for participating. I'd love for each of you to just share with the group and our greater audience today at Quest, why diversity matters to you in your workplace and your day-to-day life, any stories you might have, and also advice you might give fellow employees. Candace, let's start with you.
That's way too many levels of questions there. I'm going to apply my general interview criticisms here. If you're going to ask a question of someone, make it brief, make it direct, and don't leave a whole lot of room to maneuver around. I realize he's not really doing an interrogation here, but just for clarity and efficiency, narrow in on one thing, ask that question. Don't give a shotgun of 7 different questions within one statement and then expect somebody to give you a cohesive answer. Just anyway.
What are your thoughts on the issue?
For me, thank you, Joseph. For me, diversity, I think as far as my experience and what I think about diversity, I think about diversity in terms of this big dining room dinner table. And
and who has a seat at the table?
As a Black woman and, living in my experience, I've always been that person, and like many others in my community, that's looking around the table and seeing who's here and who isn't here at this table.
Okay. What does that mean? What do you mean?
And I think, because we know for all of us in our own right, we do represent a minority.
No, you don't represent anyone but yourself. Unless you were elected to a position, you don't represent anyone but yourself.
And so I feel like minorities in a lot of capacities, we are the ones that are pushing the diversity talks, pushing the inclusion talks, and looking around the table to see who isn't here.
Looking around the table. Okay, so again, we're talking about aesthetics, all right?
And I think for us, we need to always be trying to reach back and pull more seats up and create more space for representation.
You do not represent anyone. Representation how? Just by being there, just filling up the space? By being a particular type of person? or someone that is quote unquote at the table because they've earned it, they have the merit, they have the skills? Can you look past the surface level things and at someone's actual character versus just what pleases your eye?
As far as my corporate life and, stories within diversity and representation, I remember having, as a Black woman, to just come out of who I am.
As a Black woman to come out of who I am.
To appease others. By nature, over time, I've become more of an introvert, and I'm very shy by nature. Like if you didn't really know me like that, you would know that Candace is very shy. She is, this is how she is.
Okay, so you have a personal issue to overcome. What does that have to do? How is that a reflection of your skin color or gender? I've known shy people of all stripes my entire life. I've known outgoing people of the exact same stripes my entire life. So? But
I will say, I've had to come out of that working in, corporate America and being in spaces where I was, not only a Black woman, but maybe in some cases, one of maybe 3 Black women in the, workplace.
So you put a big value on someone's race and gender. You can't just look at people as people and interact with them as individuals and assess them as individual people. Okay.
And so there would be times where I would have to remind people that, Black people can be socially awkward.
What? Oh, okay. I mean, I won't deny, if you had to remind somebody that Black people can be socially awkward, what do people just assume Black people are outgoing and gregarious all the time? That's a new one to me. I hadn't heard that one before.
Because it's, widely accepted and understood if it's a non-Black person, like, oh, that particular person, they're just, you have to warm up to them. They're not, you have to earn a smile from them. And
what are you talking about? Okay, if a non-Black person is this and a Black person is that, is there a word for believing or assessing people on the basis of their race to possess particular qualities of behavior or mindset or attitude? I think there's a word that describes that kind of philosophy.
But for me, every time I would really revert back into my introverted cis type of situation, it would be, Candace, is everything okay? Do you need anything? It's like, no, I'm being me. And
yeah, okay, right. You're being you. It's an element of your individual personality. What does it have to do with your skin color or anybody else's? And I mean, if you're encountering people who assess someone's attitude or can choose to divine what their social acumen is going to be on the basis of their skin color, okay, those people are in the wrong. But it sounds like you're also promoting that.
And for diversity and when we're having these talks and if we're talking about it, diversity has to be welcomed, even if you don't understand it. Like my perspective, other perspectives have to be welcomed.
What if your perspective is irrelevant or incorrect? What if what you have to say carries no merit, or someone else's perspective carries more merit than yours given the circumstance? And what if, dare I say, it doesn't matter what you look like, but rather the content of your ideas and the quality of your contributions? Okay, have to? Have to.
Whether you accept them, understand them or not, they have to be welcomed and represented.
Welcomed and represented. If I don't understand you, if what you have to say doesn't matter, I have to accept it and welcome it. I mean, I'll welcome ideas. I don't have to accept it. What?
But that's pretty much for me. What about you, Joe?
Well, it's funny. I think you're this idea of like how you have to sometimes perform. I think any of us that are in any kind of minority group, you're very sensitive to your surroundings, perhaps more than anyone that is in the majority.
That sounds like a self-esteem, self-consciousness issue of yours to deal with, doesn't it?
So yeah, I agree. I have that experience of, growing up and in the workplace, having to sort of perform to a certain level for people because you're always kind of trying to meet expectations of some kind.
In the workplace, you mean like doing your job? What do you mean?
But Meanie, I know, you have the HR perspective on this and probably have a lot to share about it. What's your perspective?
Joseph, I always, tell my HR fraternity, friends, communities that I work with, right, to understand the why of diversity mattering. We really need to understand the what, because it happens many a times, these words are used interchangeably, like diversity, inclusion, belongingness, equality. They tend to just have these words all just there, but they don't know that all four are connected in four different ways, but don't mean the same.
No, they don't mean the same thing, but oftentimes everything after the diversity component is just padding to try to get away from the core issue in the diversity model, and that is assessing people on their aesthetics for the most part, or on elements that are non-determinative of merit or ability. So race, gender, orientation. Equity, inclusion, belonging, all these other things that if you take them all by themselves and minus the whole filtering on the basis of physical attributes or sexual preference, are completely, or at least as far as I know, benign. Trying to make people at a company feel like they can speak their mind or participate, or that they're not immediately an outsider or something just because they're the new person in the company. Something like that. The problem is adding those elements of consideration that are A, again, non-determinative of character or ability, and B, edge on illegal. That's the part. The diversity component is the most concerning part of the entire equation. Everything after diversity is, in my opinion, insulation and a shield against further criticism. Because if you pile on the positive adjectives to the whole thing, it becomes more and more difficult to argue when they start saying, well, don't you believe in belonging? Don't you think employees should feel like they have a safe place here at the company? Yeah, sure they do. Why are you divvying them up on the basis of their race or gender orientation? Why does that have to be there at all?
They go together though, but they aren't the same, right? So one of a very recent Gallup study defined diversity as a full spectrum of human differences. Right? Like, just take the four of us here. I mean, we're different in our own ways, right? As individuals. So just imagine an entire workforce. I mean, we would have diversity from age to gender to ethnicity, culture, sexuality.
All of which have absolutely nothing to do with the potential ability you have to contribute to the office or the workforce. Yeah, all of those things are differences. Yes. And they are all irrelevant.
Sexual orientation and so many more. I mean, I think the list just goes on.
Yeah, but notice how you didn't mention anything about education, skill set, experience, tenure, none of those things. Nothing of personal merit. Isn't that interesting?
Right. But I think as though we are different communities, different countries, all over the world, I think this we have a lot of labelings and this unconscious bias that's there, right? Like,
label, you guys are the ones that are divvying yourselves up on the basis of these broad spectrum labels. The pride group, the women group, the colors group. You're doing that.
The minute you say something and you're supposed to actually react that way, it's kind of engraved in our minds so much that I actually need to beat that up and say, hey, just go away. I really need to not behave that way. But I think to plug this, I think allyship is something that will actually help creating awareness, trying to contribute, trying to understand, what's going on and how we can do better of what we're already doing.
What does any of that mean? I'm going to need an example, some kind of active example. Also, the lady up in the corner hasn't had a chance to talk yet, so she should be next, I think.
In the HR fraternity, I kind of have two two different experiences, literally extreme, because
Okay.
on one side, it is like HR is seen as a profession more suited only for females, right? You can't have the male community joining here. But hey, this industry is not wired that way. I mean, they've kind of given that entire feminine design to it, like, it's just for them. But
is that an Indian culture thing, or are you just talking in general?
I've had bosses, and my current boss is a male, right? He's a he.
And
I've had the opportunity to work with both mix of he and she, and I've seen a lot of them growing in this fraternity. But I don't know why when you just say HR, it's like, oh, it has to be a female. Let me talk to her.
I can only speak for myself. When I hear HR, I don't immediately think only females can do HR or should do HR. I've encountered people in HR of both genders, but okay, that sounds like a you issue, but whatever. Okay, and so what? So there's a stereotype that HR is a female-centric industry. All right, and
kind of a thing, but it's not. But on the other side, we need to ensure a lot of parameters, because when it comes to human resources, there's interviewing guidelines.
Yeah.
There's guidelines that needs to be put up in so many ways, where you need to, in parallel, be with the values, the culture, respecting all the communities that are there in the workforce.
And employment laws. You're going to bring up the laws part of it?
So we've got so much to actually do there, right? And here is where I think we look up to our leadership, because it's always usually in such things a top-down approach, because I think the kind of culture, messaging, things that are brought to us through organization culture, the practices that we do, the experience.
Okay, yeah, the reception on her call is really bad, so I mean, we just have to kind of muddle through, I guess.
We provide to everybody in the group. I think it's the representation that comes from leadership. And I've always seen more diverse the group, more diverse the workforce. You have scope for innovation, high revenues, ideas. You have more talent pool to tap from, right?
You haven't. This is the first time you've talked about anything indicating skill. Talent pool? Okay. This is the first instance where anybody's brought up talent or ability. We're 12 minutes into a 22-minute presentation, and I think this is the first time anybody's explicitly brought up someone's ability, even in passing. Okay. All right, HR. So now we're talking about someone's ability to do the job, right?
There's so much that you can do. And you have happier employees because you get such diverse ideas and so much more to do in our, BAU, business as usual, right? So I feel that's my take on it. And if we have all of this, I think the funnel that we look at is no longer a funnel. I think you just need to put it out and say, we've got so much to learn from the entire workforce and, take it forward to the next steps.
Right. Your funnel, your workforce, your talent pool, and yet the spectrum of differences you highlighted had nothing to do with talent. It was all aesthetics and personal preferences. All right.
Yeah,
so over to you, Joseph.
To circle back to what Candace said about this idea of having a seat at the table. I know my experience growing up as a little boy in small town Texas, I had a lot of diverse interests. I did like every sport. I mean, I did hockey and football and soccer and track and swim team, obviously, because I still do that now.
Okay, so activities of skill, ability, and practice. Okay.
But then I also did have artistic interests as well.
Yeah.
And I would say that, we look to where we see people like us. As Candace said, and we want to be a part of places that have people like us.
Like us? You mean like shared interests? Things like that? Like fellow athletes or other artists? That kind of thing?
And I didn't see that in a lot of those spaces. I certainly didn't see gay people in sports positions at that point, like as a kid growing up in the 90s. I think that's becoming better now, and we are seeing a little bit of like gay athletes coming out.
Why is it important for you to know who I like to sleep with? Why can't you share an interest in sports with someone who shares an interest in sports? Are you looking for a date? Why is that important to you? Why do you need to know the elements of someone else's personal life if you have a shared interest in a particular subject? I don't know. It just strikes me as a little bit odd.
Or LGBT athletes, and it's definitely becoming a better situation.
Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage to divvy people up in activities and interests on the basis of their sexual orientation? I mean, he talked earlier about the gay games. Okay, so that means that no one who is heterosexual is allowed to participate. I assume. I mean, I don't know why else you'd call it that. If there was such a thing as the straight games, I wonder what our speaker would have to say about that idea. Why not have events that share a passion of people just because they share that passion? What does their orientation have to do with it? I mean, if you want to normalize these things amongst society, why do you segregate?
But and then also within career path, like for me, I definitely saw that there were LGBT people in the arts communities, which is why I was sort of drawn toward theater and band.
Wait, you were drawn to theater and band because of the sexual orientation of the participants, or because you had an interest personally in theater and or band? Or was it just like, having your cake and eat it too? Okay.
And ultimately, I was a theater major and went to New York for 12 years and had a career producing theater. And there was a huge amount of diversity in that community.
Yes, but you're still involved in athletics. But like you said, there weren't a lot of out athletes at the time you were growing up, but you're still involved in athletics today. So it wasn't necessary for you to, quote unquote, see someone like you doing a thing for you to retain interest in a thing. Because it's not about what the person does in their private lives. It has to do with the activity that you share a interest or passion for. Right?
Especially in the LGBTQ plus community. But, I always kind of wonder, what other things could have been available? What other roads could I have gone down had those notions in my mind not been there?
Yeah, if you hadn't been discriminating people on the basis of their orientation. So as a kid, you were interested in sports and art. And as you grew up, you participated in things that had to do with sports and art. What am I missing here? What were you prevented from doing?
I come from a huge military family. And I was drawn to the military because I'm very all about structure and regiment and my dad was, and my grandfathers, and a huge amount in my family.
Yeah.
But of course, at that time, we had the don't ask, don't tell policy, and I knew I was not going to go in the military.
Okay, now that one, he's got a point. Yeah, I never agree with the don't ask, don't tell thing. If you want to serve our country, I don't particularly care what your private life is like in that regard. It shouldn't matter. So he's got that's his first salient point here. But then if he doesn't like the idea of people being prevented from taking part in an activity on the basis of their orientation, why does he support the gay games?
Under the don't ask, don't tell policy, which has, thank goodness, been revoked.
Yes, it has since been overturned. Yes.
Yeah, we're drawn to where we see a place for us at the table, and it needs to be available.
When was participating in sports, arts, or theater not available to you? The military part, okay, you have a valid point. Okay, and that has since been overturned, but that's probably long past your time to join up. Okay, that one I'll give you. That's true. Seems a little hypocritical, though, that you want to now divvy people up on the basis of their orientation and what activities and organizations they're allowed to join.
There are certainly huge, amazing people that push through that even when they don't see a spot at the table. They push their way in and they get there, and they're, the groundbreaking people.
Well, how did they do that? If there's no space for them at the table, how did they do it at all? Because they just did it? A lot of this sounds like self-doubt, self-paranoia more than anything else, which I can understand, I can empathize with. But you've not described anything so far that has been a hardship or a complete barrier to you participating in something, and have actually gone back on yourself to encourage the very thing you would otherwise rail against in other elements of life.
But I think for your everyday person, we want to see a place for us,
Yeah.
But over to you, Ellen. Give us your thoughts on the issue.
No, I completely agree. And I think it's really important to consider diversity, not just in terms of having like a representative from each community, but to make sure that you're making a community where so many different diverse representatives of different diverse communities are coming together, because otherwise...
Wait. Is every person with a particular skin color part of a community based on that skin color? I hear this all the time. I don't know if I've ever addressed it directly. If someone has a particular skin, it doesn't matter what it is, are they then immediately and automatically part of some nebulous community of people based on that same skin color? Is that how that works? My skin color is my membership card. My genitals are a membership card. Who I like to sleep with are a membership card. And suddenly we're all part of the same community. We all share something other than a surface level similarity. Is that it? Is that really how that works? And is anybody representing, quote unquote, a community simply by existing with their skin color, with their genitals, with their orientation? I mean, am I representative of all heterosexual white males right now? Would anybody take me seriously if I came out and said, I represent white male heterosexuals. I am part of all of those communities. Would anybody take me seriously? Could I take myself seriously making such a statement? I know I couldn't.
Otherwise, you end up with a situation where if you have, the one token Black person, the one token woman, the one token gay guy, suddenly they're almost an involuntary ambassador for their entire community.
No, not involuntary. Did you hear what we were just told? That the represent. Involuntary. Okay, so how do you solve for that problem? Well, obviously you have to have more people that look like that in order to make sure that nobody feels like they're the token person, because you're basing all their value or assuming to know their their self-esteem model based around their skin color or their orientation or their gender. Okay, well, you tell me, how are you going to solve for the token problem if you assume that to be the case, or you assume someone to think that they are such a thing?
And you need to make a space that's got, space for shy Black girls and outgoing Black girls and gay athletes and gay theater majors and women who really enjoy the soft skills in the interviewing and women who don't, and just make that full spectrum of human beings coming together, so you don't end up with these stereotypes and these tokens who are just numbers that you can point to say, look, we're diverse.
You run ERGs based on non-determinative demographics. Why else do you do this? Why else are you doing this except for the PR? Look how diverse we are. It's not about the numbers, but we don't want to have the token person in the room. Oh, it's not about look how diverse we are, except look how diverse we are with our ERGs. Our colors ERG, our pride ERG, our women's ERG. What is the point of any of this for the benefit of the company? And how do you avoid the questions of favoritism and discrimination and segregation within your own organization on the basis of these things that say nothing about the person's ability or character? Why is it your business who I sleep with?
When really you're not dealing with numbers at all, you're dealing with people.
Oh, are you dealing with people? Because it sounds to me you're dealing with colors. You have a group called colors. Think about that for a second. Literally the most surface level element of a person, and you have an ERG based around it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, I love hearing all of our individual stories on this because they're different, but we've all had a lot of similar experiences.
Yeah, you know what? And if you had people in here who never told you anything about their orientation or any of that stuff, they probably have similar experiences because humans have similar experiences. I'm neither a woman nor am I gay, but I have been bullied, looked down upon, teased, ostracized, marginalized, beat up because I liked things that the other kids weren't interested in, because I was shy where everyone else was outgoing, because I was nervous around people and other people were confident. I don't share any of these things that you guys put such value in, yet I can empathize with each one of you when you talk about feeling like you don't belong. It's a human experience. It's got nothing to do with my skin color. It's got nothing to do with who I sleep with. It's got nothing to do with my genitals. Why can't we look at those things? Actual elements of someone's lived experience, and not a label and a demographic column that I fall into.
So, we've kind of like talked the talk. What advice would we give? How can we help? What would we tell our fellow employees to do if they can do something to help this?
Yes.
I would say the most important thing is making sure that there's not just an empty seat at the table that somebody can come join if they want to, but making sure they actually have a path to that seat.
Give me an example of what you mean.
Because in a lot of fields, and I know STEM fields in particular, and engineering because it's kind of the background that I'm most familiar with, you have people who say, we're not turning women away from this profession. It's, treated as a boys' club, but that's not how we are. We'd be happy to hire women if they would just apply.
Well, okay. Are they lying? Did you apply and get turned down? Do you have the requisite education and experience and certifications to become an engineer? Did they look past your genitals and simply at your work experience and talent? What are we talking about? I mean, you have a job at this company. You are, at least you seem to imply, you're working in the engineering space. So...
But they're not making the kind of environment that women actually want to be in.
What kind of environment do you require to be in? So it's not... Okay. They need to accommodate your space and needs for you to apply. Is that it? Like, okay, what would you, I doubt I'll get an answer, but on the off chance I do, what elements of the environment do you require changed or present to make something attractive enough for you to apply yourself to become an engineer at this company?
They're still kind of running their own offices as a boys' club where
What do you mean?
The women who are there feel kind of shunned and pushed to the side.
Feel like... What are you talking? If there's actual gender discrimination taking place in the company to a degree that makes it a hostile work environment or, discriminates women's opportunities versus men simply on the basis of their gender, you've got a civil rights case potentially there, potentially a class action one, because we have laws that say you're not supposed to value employees or give them opportunities or give them access to things on the basis of simply their gender in an unfair way, like a women's ERG.
Where they're not making an environment that's encouraging for women to actually come and join them.
Like what? What is an encouraging environment that's specifically geared towards the female of the species? What do you mean? Please, I wish, give me an example. Give me an example of what would be a positive element to the environment that would make it more attractive for women to want to apply themselves to getting an engineering job.
And then it turns into this kind of feedback loop where they're saying, well, women aren't applying, so clearly they just don't want to be engineers. So it's fine that, 99% of our office is male engineers.
What are you talking about?
And what's really important as an ally is just to be looking for places, not just where you could invite more people to join you, but where you could make an environment where people actually want to join you.
Okay, so just for hypothetical sake, a woman with an engineering degree who has all the qualifications of any man in the office, they come up and they say, I want to get a job in the engineering department at Quest. And the woman looks around and sees what? Or doesn't see what? If you're just talking about there are too many men here being men, and I'm not attracted to that environment, well, I'm not quite sure how you're going to solve for that problem without doing some very interesting engineering of the genders in the company that might end up being kind of against civil rights. What do you mean? What makes that space unwelcome to women specifically? What would you require be changed? What policies would you implement? If I don't know what you're talking about, I can't imagine a solution to the problem. If you can't offer a solution to the problem, is there a problem in the first place?
And go find them. I think it's leadership in HR and talent acquisition. You have to go pursue these people. You can't, like you just said, you can't just wait for them to, well, they're not applying. Well, how do you change that? What avenues do we go down to pursue and get a diverse community of people to apply? I know for me, the reason I accepted the role that I have at Quest is in the interview process, I was interviewed by 3 amazing female leaders. And
and their gender told you what?
I liked that. I was drawn to it.
You're drawn to female leaders. Okay, so you value gender. That's interesting.
They're amazing women.
They're not amazing people? You can't look past that and see them for something beyond the surface level? Sounds about right for this group.
Who I'm proud to work for and work with.
Uh-huh.
And
do they have names by any chance? Or were they just amazing women?
That's a choice I made. That's my way. That's an example I can think of in my career that I made a conscious choice to join a team because I liked the diversity that was there.
But wait. You were interviewed by 3 women and you call that diversity. Nothing else about them. Just that they were 3 women and you call that diversity, and that's what attracted you. So if you'd been interviewed by 3 men, you would have said, nah, brah, I'm out. So you're a sexist? What are you confessing here?
So we're lucky to have that at Quest.
What, just women? You're not going to tell us what they did? You're not going to give us their names, their positions, their title? Nothing? Just they were 3 women, and that was attractive to me. That's it? Okay. It's your dime.
Yeah. I think... go on. Okay. I think there are many things involved, like we've all been talking.
No. The only thing involved so far is the most surface level elements of an individual that you guys find value in. 3 women interviewed me, and I found that great.
Leadership, being allies. But to do all of this, you also need to create awareness, because not many know that these are actually the challenges. This is what we need to do.
What are the challenges? What challenges are you talking about?
This is how we need to do it, right? So
yeah. Tell me how. If the challenge is we can't attract enough women to our engineering department, okay. I mean, where are you advertising these jobs? Are you advertising them in? I don't even know, like the men's bathrooms or something? Like, how are women unable to find these job openings? If that is your concern, if you want to have more women, or you want women to know these opportunities exist, okay, well then I guess it depends on where are you posting these jobs? How are you making these jobs known to the world? I mean, if you're putting them in the exact same place and not having any filters as to who can access it, like on your website, or at college campuses in general or something, if you're not putting any barriers up to which genders have access to this knowledge, I'm not quite sure what else you could do to be equitable, fair, and open about it. But you're not telling us anything, so I don't know what problem have you encountered and what solution have you offered.
I think it starts off with asking, listening, being there, and speaking up for those communities, and trying to design our policies, our procedures, more inclusive.
Okay, how have you done that? How have you designed your policies and procedures to be more inclusive? I mean, I have a very active imagination. I can imagine policies and procedures which could conceivably leave out entire swaths of the population. All right, but you want to have as many opportunities as possible to get the best people into the job. Okay, how have you in HR or at your company changed your policies or procedures to meet the goals that you want to achieve, which you haven't even specified yet, but okay. You have examples, yes. You want to tell us how you've done this. You want to tell the employees how you're meaning to improve things, right?
Because the larger we grow, the diverse the group becomes. So you can't let somebody just slip off just because it's not included in the policy or the procedure.
What?
Yes, Candice.
What? I'm sorry. What are you talking about? I cannot decipher that into anything actionable. Why is it so difficult to give a specific example of a policy or a procedure that has been changed? The policy was this, and because of this element of the policy, it was preventing people from applying to this job. So we changed the policy to this, and we saw a marked increase in people applying to this job. Why is that not at the forefront of anyone on this panel's mind? If they've been through this, if they've been working on this, and so on. Right? You should be able to come up with that example at the drop of a hat. Right?
Piggyback off of what you and both Ellen said, like, you think of diversity as the table, but inclusion is what is at the table. What are you serving? What is on everybody's plate? You know what I'm saying? Like, if what is at this table that will feed and fulfill each of these individuals here, what will keep them here?
I don't know. How do I assess someone's needs, wants, and desires by their place at the table, other than, a paycheck, insurance, and benefits? What are you suggesting? Or what have you implemented in your own group or your own department to achieve this? What do you mean? Stop using the analogy of the table. Give me a concrete example.
You can't be like, oh, we're only serving meat when you have vegans at the table.
Can you translate that into a real world example in the workplace? Like anything.
Right.
Because like as a company, as we, stated, diversity is the talk and inclusion is the walk. What? So it's not only creating that space and creating that particular seat, but also the table setting, what's being served and what's being given and what type of benefits are being provided.
Yes, what type of benefits are being provided? What type of benefits are provided to this person versus that person based on their diversity quotient? Please, I want to know.
To keep and retain, talent from all walks of life.
Uh-huh.
I love that metaphor.
You all,
yes.
I could talk all day with you all about this, and
you haven't said anything of note this entire time. I all four of you have told us nothing of value in this, except hinting at your own prejudices. That's it. I don't know what else to say.
I really appreciate your perspectives on this topic, and I know we've given ourselves and our fellow employees a lot to think about.
Oh, yeah.
And thank you all who logged in and watched this training bite today.
Do I feel trained? Do I feel educated? Did I get anything of educational value? Do I understand anything more about this company on a mechanical level, on a policy level after this talk? No. Do I have serious concerns about the philosophies running HR and or the social fabric of this company on what is valued versus what is not? Yes.
If you're interested in joining Quest Colors, Women at Quest, or Quest Pride, please email eicouncil@quest.com, and we can direct you to the leadership of the ERGs. All are welcome. You can be a member of one of these communities. You can just be an ally. I know I am very inspired by Women at Quest and Quest Colors, and I'm going to be getting more involved with those ERGs outside of my work with Pride at Quest.
Yeah, if you don't fall within one of these demographics, you can be an ally. You can be a helper. We're going to have a stratification of value and worth in these ERGs, because if you don't actually fit in, well, you can just be a good helper.
Next quarter, we'll be presenting a special training bite centered around Women's History Month.
Oh.
So stay tuned on that.
Okay.
And until then, thank you. Thank you to my fellow panelists, and have a great rest of your quarter.
Yeah. All right. You too. Yay! Whee! La 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 la. Slightly Coldplay outro music, but okay. Well, there you go. Whatever that was worth, not much. But then that's the brilliance of ERGs. When someone actually has to be sat down to explain their utility, it's very difficult, it seems. At any point in this, might I ask, did anyone specify what their ERG does? Like, what exactly does the Colors ERG do? If I come to the company and I want to join this ERG, what am I going to get out of it? What benefits do I receive, attain, or what access to resources do I have as up compared to if I didn't join this ERG? No one mentioned what they do. What is the purpose? How does this benefit the company? It's just, oh, I really like that I was interviewed by 3 women. The spectrum of differences are, here's a list of adjectives, mostly surface level. Okay. Thank you, Plague Grinch Zach, for the question at least. What kind of company? They're like the mafia. Nice company you have here. It'd be a shame if you didn't hire us. We said you're a bigoted company. I don't know what else of use are ERGs on an HR level except PR and virtue signal. Like, what does it mean to be part of the Pride ERG at Quest? What do you do? What does it have to do with anything? Again, am I being compensated for my time in participating with a company-run subgroup of employee demographic? Or am I giving over my own time? Especially when it comes to my personal life. Like, again, why is it your business who I sleep with? Rotten Corpse, that was a whole lot of talking without actually saying anything. Isn't it, though? This is supposed to be educational for the employees at this company? Ryan R., what kind of company is Quest? Well, they advertise themselves as an IT management company and services. So they do information technology management and I guess networking for other companies, that kind of thing. That's from their description. That's what I assume it to be. Let's see. And Mike R., I need to have a steak and a beer after watching that soy boy cooks. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but as he was explaining his position and his philosophy on things, it was just, can you imagine if somebody came in and said, I was interviewed by 3 white men, and that made me feel really good about working for this company. What would you say about that person? If that was the thing they alighted upon, is there a word or two you might use to describe such a person if that's what they routed out as the most important element to make them decide to join a company? You might call them racist and or sexist. Well, he really liked that he was interviewed by 3 women, and so he's a sexist? And that was the big takeaway in this thing? Is like that's his big takeaway in this. Well, I was interviewed through. That made me feel good. I guess. I don't know. Derek LaRue, smells like feminism. It just smells like discrimination, no matter how you cut it, one way or the other. And it's very interesting to see people unfiltered in laying out what they have to say on the subject. Again, on a uncut, unedited, no holds barred 20-minute Zoom call, you had 4 different people who are parts of at least 3 different ERGs at this company. And not a single individual ever told us about an activity that they were happy to take part in, or some achievement of their ERG that they were proud of, or some project that they're working on, or some goal that they're aiming towards in whatever they're doing in their groups. Why is that? That is so bizarre to me. All it does is make these things seem like nothing more than the labels that they are, and just a PR virtue signal by this company. And again, the implication that because you are this particular way, you need a special set of resources. You need special help. You need to be shunted away into this group, this affinity group, because that's where you belong on this very high-level category that you fall into. It's all very creepy to me. It really is kind of creepy. I don't know that I'd feel comfortable working in a company that divvied up its employees on this basis and had some sort of expectation of participation or socialization because you belong with those kinds of people. It just seems really off to me, doesn't it? Anyway, let's see. Anything anybody else wants to say? I'll take a couple minutes here, and then I'll wrap it up. Play Grinch Zach. I'm sure reminding them that they are a lesser person for not being an alphabet or a color will keep them at that company. I don't know. It seems you can avoid all of that by not assessing your employees on the basis of things that by law you're not allowed to assess them on. Like I say, I'm very curious to find out what happens to the whole DEI apparatus if affirmative action is struck down by the Supreme Court or curtailed in some meaningful way by the Supreme Court. I'm curious to find out what happens there. But either way, everybody, there you go. There's a deep dive, or maybe not so much deep, a wading pool into ERGs from this company, Quest. And that's their best foot forward on the subject, I guess. Take that as you will. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me here on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I'll once again take a look at an off-brand TED Talk or even a legitimate TED Talk. It does happen from time to time for education and enlightenment. I call it enlightencation. Inlocation. There you go. Inlocation. That's it. That's what I was looking for. Also, please, if you haven't already, take a look at the GoFundMes and the Give, Send, Go. Is that what it is? Up at the top of the chat box to our friends Moonshock, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. They could certainly use your generosity if you have a couple of bucks to spare, especially this time of year and given the circumstances they find themselves in. With that, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, by the way, if you have any interest in Christmas films, specifically Die Hard, I was invited, very pleasantly and surprisingly invited, onto an episode of Midnight's Edge After Dark last night. We're on a round table with Tom Connors Jr., Script Doctor, and Fanzine. We talked about what we love about the movie Die Hard and its importance in the pantheon of Christmas cinema. So go check that out over on Midnight's Edge After Dark. I think it was After Dark. I'm pretty sure it was the After Dark channel. It's there somewhere. Just look up Die Hard Midnight's Edge. You'll find it. Anyway, everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday and the rest of your weekend. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.